Welcome to another cast by Galaxy Knight. We have Deckload Raw, aka White Raw, on Metropolis, spawning on the right, and Socke on the left. Both Protoss. I'd like to tell you a little bit about these players. White Raw is real name, and forgive the pronunciation, Alexei Krupnik, from the Ukraine, born in 1980, is a veteran Brood War player and has made his name for himself in Starcraft 2. He has reached the top 200 in Europe, and so he's excellent, very popular. Socke, not quite as well known, but is starting to make a name for himself, is born in 1987. His name is Giacomo Thus, from Germany. Again, I apologize for the pronunciations. So it looks like we have a pretty normal opening from both players. There are no proxy pylons. We have a gateway going down on 12 for White Raw, and a gateway on 12 for Socke. Socke's probes scouting, and I think that they'll find, notice he scouted up here first because if White Raw was up here, then it would be a much shorter rush distance. Because as it is, there's this very long distance in comparison. And some friendly banter. Sorry, I'm not actually reading the banter here because I'm watching the game. Everyone in Europe is friends, obviously. No one has problems in Europe. Anyway. So we have an assimilator going down for White Raw and an assimilator and a cybernetics core for Socke. So far it looks pretty standard. We should see a cyber core going down. There we go, there it is. And White Raw is scouting. He scouted here first. And we'll find that he doesn't need to worry about a rush. Now, White Raw made a name for himself in the beta, and his Void Ray plays were very popular. We built a Void Ray and just kind of crush whoever you played with that Void Ray. And now I'd say that Void Rays are pretty standard thing to open with as general harassment. The second assimilator going down for Socke and White Raw. And Socke's pro being chased in White Raw's base. We have Zealots trying to attack him, but a Stalker is on the way. White Raw did finally find Socke, and here comes Socke's Stalker. You'll notice that the difference right now between their builds, well, the builds are similar, kind of the same actually, but White Raw has 2 Zealots and a Stalker on the way, whereas Socke is making a second Stalker, Warp Gate on the way, and no Zealots. Looks like White Raw's Warp Gate technology is a little bit behind. They're playing that looks pretty identical here. The Loon Stalker kicking that pro's ass. I'm a Stalker. Actually considered making my name to be Stalker instead of Galaxy, but I'm not a stalker. I don't want girls to think I'm a stalker, so I would never do that. Not that there are girls on Battle.net anyway. So we have a second gateway going down for Socke, and it looks like 2 more gateways going down for White Raw and a robotics facility. If we look at the food count, White Raw is at 36 over 42, and Socke is at 35, so about even. So we have 2 gateways going down for Socke. So it'll be 3 gateways for Socke and 3 gateways and a robo facility. Chrono boosting that observer. Meanwhile, White Raw's probe is just scouting the map for expansions, and looks like there's a small push coming consisting of Stalkers and a Sentry. White Raw's probe is going out on the map to Socke's base, and here we have stalkers coming in, and a little probe here. What is this probe going to do? It may very well build a proxy pylon, or it could just be scouting for expansions. So far, looks like Socke's first expansion is on the way. Now if Socke actually gets this expansion down, that means he could definitely pull ahead in a macro game. And we have some White Raw trying to build a proxy pylon outside of Socke's natural expansion. That does not work, so he builds instead a proxy pylon in the upper right and decides to move out with his units. Socke moving in a position to defend his expansion. Meanwhile, White Raw continuing to macro, building a fourth gateway, and I would call this sort of a delayed 4-gate push by White Raw, whereas Socke actually has 4 gateways and an expansion now. So I think White Raw really needs to make something happen so he doesn't fall behind. Here comes the first battle. Sentry using Guardian Shield, and White Raw trying to do a drop, but losing his dropship. Blocking out the ramp so reinforcements can't get in, and the Stalkers are making mincemeat of Socke's army. Now, if White Raw can just destroy this expansion, he can be in good shape. Otherwise, he'll need to keep the pressure on. Meanwhile, reinforcements are coming. Proxy piling close to Socke's base. And looks like we're in a good position right now. I just want to apologize right now that there's no overlay here. I will figure out how to do that in the future. And an Immortal coming out for Socke. And meanwhile, in their base, his fourth gateway, finally, the warp gate technology down, and it looks like White Raw is just continuing to push, focusing down this. Well, the Immortal is finally going down, and it looks like just keeping the pressure on. Come on, White Raw, you gotta take out this Nexus. Otherwise you're going to fall behind. But White Raw has managed to get up an expansion for himself. It did delay some reinforcements, but see, when you have a full warp gate push, your reinforcements are delayed if you have to build an expansion, because it's sort of all in here. Losing a whole ton of probes. Zealots in the mass killing probe. Meanwhile, White Raw is retreating with his stalkers, but I think the damage has been done. If we look at the probe count, White Raw is ahead by 1 probe. And even though Socke has had this expansion for a while, and it's kind of hard to tell the difference between these. Like, I get the Zealots mixed up, the colors. And it looks like, yeah, Socke's going to be able to hold this. But White Raw is just keeping the pressure on. Good for you, White Raw. His macro is exceptional. His Nexus is done, and he is not transferring his probes just yet. We look at the minerals. White Raw is high on gas, and looks like Socke is. Both players are kind of high on gas. That's because they're staying on. They're deciding to stay on 2 assimilators. Sometimes in a 4 warp gate push, it's helpful to take your probes off gas so that you can have less gas and more minerals. Because these 4 warp gate pushes on 1 base are very all-in, as I said before. And here we go. Just keep the pressure on White Raw. These scary stalkers. We see some really good micro from these 2 players. And I think what Socke can just hope to just keep is to just try and eventually hold off White Raw's play. Here come the probes. This probe needs to be doing something. Go, probe, go. Go do your mineral thing. Oh, these probes are just hanging out here, doing nothing. Oh my gosh, that's going to play a big... White Raw needs as much money as he can so he can put on the pressure. Now, what will White Raw do? Will he keep the pressure on, or will he give the expansion to Socke and try and expand again himself? Looks like... Oh, he was about to go, but he's waiting for reinforcements. White Raw's probe hanging out here, going up the ramp, but... Force field and his White Raw's forces are split, and Socke doing a good job of fending off White Raw. Though if we look at the unit counts, Socke is down by 8 probes, 2 stalkers, 1 sentry. White Raw slowly pulling ahead in the food count, harassing Socke's base, but those forces are going to get taken out. Meanwhile, White Raw's probe is still just surviving here, getting down 2 assimilators in his base. Almost mined out in his natural, and continuing this 4 warp gate pressure, even chrono boosting his warp gates. And then we have a big encounter in the middle. White Raw on the right, Socke on the left, focusing down that Immortal, because those Immortals are so good. We haven't seen any Immortals from White Raw, just Sentries, Stalkers, and Zealots. And I'd say that these Immortals have really helped Socke stay alive in this battle, in this game. But White Raw is just pulling ahead of the food count, 67, 245, and I think White Raw may just win this. That is my portention. Finally, on his second base is up and running with a healthy amount of probes. White Raw needs to be getting a 3rd expansion so that it doesn't get mined out on his base. And here we go. Sentries attacking probes, Zealots being reinforced, Zealots, and White Raw high on his money. Needs to take an expansion, but I think that this constant pressure is paying off. And what can Socke do? Because he's mined out here in his main. He's now given up. Socke has now given up his expansion and just reinforcing in the main. Meanwhile, White Raw with a lone warp prism doing nothing, just looking very threatening. I would be scared if that warp prism was there. Now it's in Socke's place, and I think that White Raw has pretty much got it. Now it's just focusing down the Immortal. And GG from Socke. I want to... Oh, look, a little probe there, hanging out there. So I want to say that Socke is a very good player. I recently saw a game of him beating Braddock on Desert Oasis. Braddock, a very well-known Terran player. And that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this game. For questions or comments, please leave them. And signing out, I will bring more videos to you of the professionals in the future. And do have a good day. That was fun. Cheers.